Hey, welcome back. Thanks for watching. Each Friday, I get an email from Bolden, the retirement planning software that I subscribe to, and probably many of you that watch subscribe as well. So you may even get the same email. But in the email I got a couple weeks ago, there was a good article in there about different retirement mistakes or financial planning mistakes that people make leading up to retirement. And I thought I would go over a few of those points and kind of just discuss a couple of those points as we go along. So the biggest retirement mistake, you don't know what you spend your money on every month. Now, I've said in other videos, and many people in the retirement community will tell you that your budget is by far the most important number that you need to know. And without that, the rest of the planning is very difficult to do. So you really do need to work on and plan for and dial in your monthly budget and your one-time expenses, and try to think what you're going to need throughout the a year's time, and just kind of go through that. So I've mentioned before that I use the Every Dollar app from the Ramsey Foundation and Dave Ramsey, and it really helped me line my budget out for the month so that I could really see on paper how much I was spending. But if you don't know how much you're spending per month, then it's really going to be very difficult to plan for your retirement income. So you really need to work on that, and I'm going to highlight that because it is the most important. Another mistake that people make is they don't have a savings plan or an investment strategy. Maybe they're just putting money into their 401k blindly, and they really don't even know what they're putting their money into. Maybe they're putting it all in cash, or maybe they're putting it all in equities, and they're going to retire in 6 months, and every bit of their money is in an S&P or just a regular mutual fund. And so you really need to know where your money's at and how you're investing. And so when the time comes, you have the preparations in order to have your investments turned into income, which that's another mistake, is people don't have their money set up for income. Once I retired, or once I really decided I was going to be retiring, I began to move money from mutual funds and such into cash, so that I had readily available cash to use for my monthly expenses that was safe and out of the market, so that I knew that I was going to have several years worth of expenses covered by this cash money. So perhaps in some ways I'm a little too aggressive in cash. But again, I can change that as I see the tides turning, so to speak. But for now, I've got about 4 years worth of safe cash. And actually, with my annuity that I have another probably 6 years after that that's safe. So that's just my basic expenses. But if you don't have a plan or an idea of how your investments are going to turn into income, I think that's a big problem for retirement. Another mistake or problem in retirement is you're not thinking about taxes. And so trying to maintain your spending within a certain tax bracket so that you're just not blowing through these tax brackets. As I've said in other videos, I'm setting up my monthly income and my annual income to stay in the 12% tax bracket. Now, again, as I've also said in other videos, I'm not going to live my life in order to maintain a 12% tax bracket, but my goal is to at least maximize that 12%, and maybe put off large purchases or plan ahead for large purchases so that I don't really blow through the 12% bracket, because the next bracket is 22%. So you have a huge step up from you go from 10% to 12% all the way up to 22 in one shot. And so any dollars over that, say $100,000 threshold, you're paying 22% in taxes on that over I think it's $100,800. I think is the upper limit for the married filing jointly for 2025. Now you would also include a $31,000 or so standard deduction. But anyway, you've got to really plan for taxes in retirement and adjust your spending accordingly so that you're not constantly blowing through these tax brackets. Another mistake that people make is they don't know anything about personal finance. When you have a paycheck, you essentially, for the most part, most people, I believe, know how much their paycheck is going to be the next check. That they're, and I realize that there are people that work on commission and stuff, and maybe you won't have any check. I don't know. But generally speaking, people that I'm aware of and that know, we for the most part, what your check's going to be in the coming weeks, and so you always knew that if you spent extra money, that you were going to be getting extra money, so to speak, in the next check. So, but in retirement, that's not always the case, and so you really need to understand personal finance and how your spending will affect your future. And so that's very important. So really get dialed in on these things in retirement in order to manage your finances in a much better way, in a much more controlled way than perhaps you do while you're working. Another mistake I read here, and I kind of chuckled when I read this, but people pay for storage. I don't know about where you live. It's probably the same way, but these self-storage places are everywhere. And I'm sure there are people that have stuff in these storage units that they probably don't even know what's in there. And so I don't know what an average monthly cost for a storage unit would be, but you really should stop to think, do I really need to spend that money, whether it's $50 or $100? Do I need to really spend that to store stuff that I really don't need or don't even know what's there? But I did think that was kind of funny that was in a retirement mistake article. People are paying for storage. It says here nearly 1 out of every 3 people in America rent an offsite storage. And so take an inward look and see if that's you. I know one person that I know that was paying storage, and all there was a couch in there. They just forgot about it, and they paid the bill every month, and then they realized that all that was in there was a couch. But just understand that if you're paying for storage, you at least ought to know what's in that storage room. So anyway, just some things I thought I'd go over. Really start getting your life in order if you're going to be retiring soon. Get your budget dialed in. Learn these the retirement lingo or retirement slang that we talk about so much on retirement channels. I think I'm going to make a video on the different retirement acronyms and retirement slang that we may throw around willy-nilly on our own channels without many people knowing. But managing your finances in retirement is a big thing, and it's a big change for people that just lived perhaps paycheck to paycheck and really didn't think much about how they spent. So anyway, I hope that helps. I want to remind you, I have a phone number, 618-608-0152. If you want to reach out to me there, if you want to ask questions or talk about something in private that you wouldn't want to necessarily put on the public comments. But so you can reach out to me there. Just include your name and where you live, so I have some idea of who I'm speaking with. I do appreciate all that like and subscribe and comment. I really appreciate that. Here lately, it seems like I've been getting more comments. It seems like my views are down for some reason, but the comments seem to be maybe a little higher. But I always appreciate, there's always probably a handful of guys that watch every video. I really do appreciate that. And there's many of you that reach out on every video, and I really do appreciate that too. But anyway, with that, I'll say God bless. I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.